Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Maistro bringing you guys back the Korea Komalas in our Season 2 of the APL. I have not completely completed Season 1 yet at the time of my recording this. I will release the video later, but we have already drafted for Season 2 and everything, so I thought, like, I have a bit of free time on my hands, I might as well just show you what I have drafted, because I am very, very glad about how this draft went. We were second pick overall, which is really, really nice. I had the chance to draft Steal again, and I feel like I would have, but the first pick decided to go with that in the draft overall. So, yeah, I'm just gonna show you guys these 11 mons. I feel like I really did put together a solid team. There were a few aspects, like I did get sniped in the draft a little bit, not as much as some others, but overall I'm just really glad how this draft went. So, leading off the squad here, we have Kieran Black. I'm probably going to add nicknames later, you guys will see that. But at the moment, I'm thinking of naming my Kieran Black Tom Brady right here, because QB could also mean quarterback, it could also be short for Kieran Black. So that said, this thing has insane stats. Kieran Black really speaks for itself. I think it's one of the most amazing mods in Draft League format, for sure. Its stats total up to about 700, I believe, if that's correct, because that is an insane amount. It's extremely bulky, as you can see, with 125, 190 being its HP, defense, and special defense stats, respectively. It's got a great offensive typing of Dragon and Ice. It is weak to a plethora of types, and it doesn't resist that much, being as Ice type isn't really the best offensive typing. It's weak to, I believe, Dragon, Fighting, Steel, and Rock. So that's 4 weaknesses. However, it does resist grass, it resists water, and it also resists electric, which are all fairly good mons to, like, I suppose just good typings to resist us. Those are usually, or at least water is usually defensive, so this thing doesn't really have to worry about like Scald Burns or whatever. Even as you see this 170 attack stat, which is insane, it is out the roof. There's literally nothing like this. Right now this is 0 IVs, and I'm not even invested, so we have 376 attack without being invested. That's just a sense to give you guys of how strong this thing is. I'm gonna go 252 adamant, we're almost at 500, that's insane. That's usually most choice banded mons don't even reach that stat. And its special attack stat is definitely not anything to laugh at either. If we go to 252 modest, we reach 372, which is also really, really good. 102 base special attack is definitely not anything to laugh at, and we can bring mixed, we can bring literally anything. This thing doesn't mind having like negative natures on any of its stats, because this thing can deal. One thing that's a bit, I suppose, exploitable on Kieran Black, its speed stat isn't the greatest, being base 95. Let's just do timid max speed. It's 317, so that underspeeds a lot of base 100 mons like Victini and Manaphy, those kind of mons. Mega Gardevoir, which is actually a fairly big problem for this, despite its low defense stat. Also, another thing, the reason why this thing is allowed in Draft League format at all is the fact that it doesn't have the best physical move pool. It doesn't even get access to moves like Superpower or Earthquake, as I believe. However, a special move pool, it kind of makes up for that. And I mean, as I said before, base 120 is nothing to laugh at. Got Earth Power, Flash Cannon, we got the Stab, Dragon Pulse, and Draco Meteor. Focus Blast. Fusion Bolt's a great physical move, and it's also great coverage for those water types that want to come in on these ice moves. Got Ice Beam, Iron Head, Outrage, Psychic even, which is pretty crazy. Rock Slide, Shadow Ball, Shadow Claw, Signal Beam, Stone Edge, Zen Headbutt. We have so many different ways. Freeze Shock is an insane move. Maybe I'll bring like a Power Herb Freeze Shock one of these weeks, just to show off exactly how strong this thing can be. Its ability is also extremely amazing. Basically works as Mold Breaker. It's terrible. So, for example, Mega Venusaur doesn't take hits from this because Thick Fat is going to be negated by Terrible, and this thing's Ice Beam can just do so much to it. We don't care about that bulk. So after I got this first pick, a lot of interesting picks were going first round. I believe Keldeo went first round, Excadrill went first round. So when it came back to me, there were still a lot of mons that I could go for. with a mon like Kieran Black, I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna definitely want to draft webs, especially like later on, because that just really helps this thing hit hard and not like worry about this thing getting outsped by Scarfers or just other mons in general. So originally I wanted to draft Mega Medicham, but when it came back to me, not a single Mega had been drafted. This was 23 picks into the draft, and not a single Mega had been drafted. So I decided I could have also drafted Mega Lopunny. I didn't really need it. Mega Medicham also has great support with webs, but the mon I chose to draft was Mega Diancie. Mainly because Magic Bounce it's a way of hazard prevention. That's one thing. Also, just to have the Dragon and Fairy synergy in hopes of completing a Dragon Steel Fairy core would be really wonderful. And Diancie is also another one of those mons that probably is barely allowed in Draft League format. So this is a formidable core. Of course, that Rock Fairy typing, great offensively. I mean, it is quadruple resisted to this Steel type, and Steel is actually a bit of a problem, as you can see, because Kieran Black is also weak to Steel. But we can fix that up fairly easily later. At the moment, this thing also has ways to deal with Steel types. Earth Power is extremely powerful, considering this thing's stats. Just look at it. Okay, base 50 HP isn't much, so that makes its defense, it's not nearly as bulky as it seems, having 110 in defense and special defense, but 160 attack and special attack. So that means we are going to max out at 460 we can max out in 460 in either attack or special attack. So two extremely offensive mons we've drafted back to back. And this one is actually, it can be pretty fast as well. I believe it gets up to 350, which speed ties with Gengar. It outspeeds some key mons like Kartana, Cobalion, Infernape, Keldeo. So this thing has a wonderful speed tier. And as for its move pool, it's not nearly as widespread as Kieran Black, but it still has the appropriate moves needed to deal with the mons that it struggles against, which isn't many. Mainly, it's just Steel types. Because Rock and Fairy are really great complementary typings, in my opinion. It gets Dazzling Gleam, but we don't really need to bring that if we have Moonblast. So we got Moonblast, got Diamond Storm, which is a great signature move, very great offensively. It only does have APP, but 100 power, physical, and a fairly high accuracy, and the chance to sharply boost our defense. Like a 50% chance, which is absolutely insane. Gas Explosion, maybe I'll bring that sometime. Calm Mind can be extremely scary. Moonblast, Nature Power, so maybe I might want to get like Thunderbolt if I'm in electric terrain. That would be pretty cool. Psychic, Psyshock, and then we also get access to rocks. So this mon is just really good for that. Yeah, so not a lot of coverage, but it doesn't really matter because it just hits so hard in itself. That's pretty insane. Magnet Rise could be a thing. I don't know. If I'm facing against a Dugtrio, maybe I want to use Magnet Rise. If I somehow outspeed it, or maybe just anticipating it wanting to come in. Trick Room Mon, so that's also something else to keep in mind. So just getting these first two mons were insane. I decided to complete my FDS core with Ferrothorn, the third pick round. Ferrothorn being the really defensive mon to these first two offensive mons, and making sure that our Steel weakness does not get out of hand. Thing has insane defenses, is one of the bulkiest mons in the game, and its typing is amazing. Grass Steel makes it only weak to fire and fighting, if I do remember correctly. It does have that quad weakness to fire, but I can very easily predict that on a lot of mons. You can bring HP fire. I know which mons get flamethrower or not. It's really not hard to figure that out. Extremely slow, as you can see with that base 20 speed, but it's just meant to be a wall. That's honestly what the thing is. It also hazard stacks, you guys will see later on, but let's just go over these stats. 131 defense, 160 special defense, 116 special defense, my bad. Sorry, and a very nice base 94 attack stat, which is definitely usable. Could bring Choice Band, Ferrothorn, something pretty crazy, I don't know. Anticipation is probably what I'm not going to bring, because I don't really need it. I could scout for super effective moves, could scout for coverage like that, but I don't really need it, especially with Iron Barbs, which is basically makes sure that any Mon, it's like Rough Skin, it makes any Mon lose 1/8 of their HP if they make contact, which is really nice, especially when coupled with Rocky Helmet, that does like 30% right off the bat. Move-wise, it gets a lot of coverage, surprising, well, not really a lot of coverage, but it has a lot of different options, but it doesn't really need to use all these options, because it has really annoying moves. It gets knockoff, which is really nice. Leech Seed, especially in complement with that. It gets Power Whip, which is a very, very nice stab. A grass move. Gets Gyro Ball, also is a stab steel type move. And what it most importantly gets are Spikes and Stealth Rock. Doesn't get Toxic Spikes, but the fact that it can just kind of hazard stack up on anything, and it really makes mons like Mega Diancie and Kyurem easier to clean up if they can't O-hit KO from full range. Also gets Thunder Wave, which is really nice, but that's Ferrothorn for you. And at this point, I was like, you know what? I want to make sure that I get Webs, because Webs are really going to help Mega Diancie and Kyurem Black's sweep. So I drafted Araquanid, also because it's a great water type, but mainly because I really just wanted to try this mon out in Draft League format for a while now. I was thinking of getting like a few different water types before this. Suicune was on my list, Empoleon was on there, actually especially Empoleon, but after I got Ferrothorn, I was like, hey, I don't really need Empoleon for this, especially if I wanted to get Webs, because I think this was like the #1 Webber for me, aside from Galvantula, but I believe Galvantula got picked up before this. So we went with Araquanid. This is also an amazing, it's very similar to Ferrothorn in usage. It's extremely defensive, very slow, and although it may not show with that base 70 attack stat, it hits extremely hard because Water Bubble is literally one of the best abilities you can have in Pokemon. So Water type moves are going to be doubled, and that's not including Stab. So a Water type move from someone else will be doing 3 times, well, Araquanid is going to be doing 3 times as much with that same move. Can't be burned, so moves like Liquidation, you can't really make this thing any weaker by burning it, because that just doesn't work. And then it's also technically a resist to fire, because that's also part of the ability, which is absolutely insane. So that makes Araquanid so much more useful. I feel like it probably could have been tier 2, but Water Bubble is just such a wonderful ability. I remember when the game first came out, everyone was really just freaking out with this mon because this ability was just so OP. It also gets Water Absorb. I'm probably not going to bring that, but because Water Bubble is just so much better. But it also gets a very, very nice amount of coverage. Crunch, Giga Drain, Ice Beam. You get Stab and Leech Life and Lunge. Liquidation. Gets Magic Coat and Mirror Coat as you down below. Scald for those burns. Sticky Web, which is mainly what I wanted to drop this mon for. It also gets Poison Jab, Waterfall X Scissor, Surf, gets so much. If I scroll down here, you will see it does get Mirror Coat, so if a mon wants to hit it with a Thunderbolt, which we probably can live due to this thing having an immense special defense stat, you can always just hit it back. So yeah, Araquanid's a really interesting mon that I really wanted to try out, and I'm really going to be looking forward to using this thing. So at this point in the draft, I was like, okay, I have this insane squad, but one of the things I don't have is hazard removal, and especially if I want to get like more defoggers that are most likely going to be weak to rocks, I want to draft a Rapid Spinner. And I looked down at the tier list, and for some reason in tier 4 there was Hitmontop, which is, in my opinion, one of the better tier 3s. So I just went ahead and grabbed Hitmontop, because this thing is really good. It is also fairly slow, and I'm gonna have to address that later on in the draft, just being slow, because I can't really rely on webs all the time. But this thing has a very considerable bulk, with 95 defense and 110 special defense, and also you couple that with Intimidate, making this mon not the most hard to hit. Once again, as I mentioned before, it gets rapid spin, and it also gets a lot of coverage, which is mainly what I'm going to be using, so I can very easily run like Assault Vest on this, for example. It makes this thing even more bulky than it originally was. Hits fairly hard. Base 95 attack is definitely not anything to laugh at. I mean, Frothorn gets base 94. Gets priority in a variety of ways. It gets Sucker Punch, Mach Punch, it gets Fake Out, gets Bullet Punch. So, yeah, we can definitely not make that speed a problem with that. It also gets a very nice stab with Close Combat, although it makes it a bit frailer. Gets great, it gets Agility, which is interesting. Maybe I can run like a Life Orb Agility set sometime in the future. It'd be interesting. So many of these monsters are just so versatile. I can use these in so many ways. Agility, Earthquake, Quick Attack is also not going to be running that, but the fact that it also gets Technician makes its priority moves just so much better, which is really just amazing. So yeah, that's Hitmontop. I'm really glad we were able to get this. It makes hazard remove a lot easier. And also, in the draft, I had already sniped a few people, and I decided to pick up a mod next that would most likely snipe a few more, because I know this mod is heavily sought after in drafts. It is just so good for tier 4. You have Ditto. So Ditto just transforms into anything. It gets this boosts if it wants to do that. So Ditto makes sure that nothing can ever set up against one of these mods that are more prone to being set up on, like Frothorn. But it doesn't take care of subs, but this basically ensures that if a mon wants to bring a setup move, it also has to bring a sub, because otherwise Ditto just cleans this thing out. So that makes it extremely terrifying. Just don't look really at the stats. It's really self-explanatory. It just goes in and it copies the typing. It becomes that mon with all the stat boosts, and it can just reverse sweep from there if that's a thing. Ditto's just so sought after in that way. It can also really scout for sets. It can be literally anything depending on what the opposing mon is. So, I mean, to be prepared for Ditto, you need to have not only answers to the opponent's team, but also answers to your own team. So that makes Ditto just such a hard mon to prep against. Next up, I decided to get... Also, Ditto probably solves our speed problem for now. I definitely want to get some faster mons in the future, but being run Scarf for a lot of the time, or Quick Claw, I don't know. Like, it's Ditto, you never know. But that just makes this thing so so useful, and it solves our speed top problem temporarily. Next up, we have Nidoqueen. Very well-rounded mon all around. Poison ground type, really nice because we can now soak up T-Spikes that would have otherwise been a bit of a problem to mons like Hitmontop, Araquanid, Kyurem Black. That makes this thing pretty good. Its defensive stats are not too shabby. 90, 87, 85, and its offense isn't too bad either, with base 92, 75 special attack, and a fairly good niche of speed, making this... I don't know what this thing outspeeds. I'm just trying to go over my head. I believe it outspeeds mons like the Volcanion, for example, Magneton, mons like that, Magnezone. So yeah, it's a fairly good speed tier. Its typing is also very good offensively, because it does have a good amount of weaknesses, but it has the appropriate coverage to take that on. Sheer Force also makes that even more powerful, because now attack and special attacks are going to be getting like 1.3 boosts on everything. So let's just look at this. Move pool, pretty insane. It gets a variety of both special and physical moves. Aqua Tail, Avalanche. I'm just gonna go down the list right now, because I might as well. Brick Break, Dragon Pulse, Dragon Tail, Great Dragon Stab. Well, it's not even Stab. What am I talking about? Earth Power and Earthquake. In case you wanted to run like one or the other end, this thing doesn't get enough coverage. Fire Blast, Fire Punch, and Flamethrower. Focus Blast and Focus Punch. It can set up with Home Claws. Not really the best setup move if it's not that fast, but that's fine. We don't really need, because when your opponent's prep for this, it's just really hard to prep for all options that this Nidoqueen can be, because it's just, it gets so much. Ice Beam, Ice Punch, Outrage, Poison Jab, Poison, Power Up Punch, sorry. Gets Pursuit, which is really interesting. Rock Slide, Roar to stop those mobs from setting up. Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball. Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave for great stab, and very well boosted by the sheer force. A Sludge Wave has, after that, it has a base power of 123, which is really nice, especially with 100 accuracy. And then it also gets Stealth Rock, and as you guys will see below, it also gets Toxic Spikes. So, and also Thunderbolt, Thunder Punch, Surf, Superpower, Super Fang, Sucker Punch, because really, why not? This thing just has probably the most insane move pool. I mean, aside from Nidoking, of course. But being able to set up Toxic Spikes and absorb our own, really nice. Also to get another rocker after Ferrothorn and Mega Diancie, which is really, really great. And after this, I just want to draft some more hazard removal, because there's no such thing as having too much hazard removal, especially with the Mons that I have that are weak to rocks. I don't want them to get chipped down so fast. So I drafted Crobat next, also to really help with the speed, because this thing is just insanely fast. This thing's speed ties with Jolteon, and it outspeeds mons like Swellow and Greninja. And for a mon that fast, usually they're frail, but Crobat can surprisingly take a few hits. It gets Infiltrator, which means it's going to be breaking through sub, which is really nice. But yeah, like its defensive stats, really not bad, 80, 85, 80, 80. And it also gets Roost, I believe, to kind of just heal off any damage that it has. It comes in as a very good answer to fighting and flying type moves. Although if it goes for Roost, it needs to be wary of moves like Earthquake, because then it will be super effective because it will be pure poison when in the phase of Roost. Also, having 70 special attack may seem like the most disregardable stat at this moment, but this thing gets Nasty Plot, so that's definitely also an option. Can be run as Choice Banded as well. Choice Band Brave Bird with that 90 attack really isn't that. It's just going to be doing a lot, because it's great stab. It's going to be a bit of recoil, so I need to be wary of that, but the fact that this thing is so fast really makes up for it. Having U-Turn is also really great. I don't have an electric type to complete the Volt Turn core, but that's not really a problem, because this thing also just gets great status moves in Taunt and Tailwind, for example. So yeah, that's honestly Crobat. I'm going to be trying to move a little bit faster here, because this draft analysis has been going on for a while now. Yeah, I'm really glad I got Crobat. Next, I got Persian, because I wanted some more momentum-based mons. This thing gets Parting Shot, which is really great. It also has just great abilities. Rattled is weird ability. I haven't really seen that ever run. I don't really expect to ever run it. But getting Fur Coat and Technician is really, really nice, especially with those hidden powers. This thing has base 75 special attack, which isn't a lot, but after a Nasty Plot or two, this thing is just going to be hitting extremely hard. Fur Coat also makes this thing a lot bulkier than it may seem at first. It's also a great, just speed mod, and when coupled with Crobat, these two mods really have great synergy, in my opinion. So, in terms of moves, it doesn't hit too hard when regarding attack. As you can see, it only has 60 base attack, but it's surprising the amount of coverage it gets for that. But mainly, it's going to be special with Nasty Plot. Parting Shot is just great because we can make sure a mon that wants to come in will not be hit by attacks as hard as before. Having Roar is nice. It also gets, unfortunately, it gets a lot of coverage that would be so much more useful if it had more attack and special attack. But getting both Parting Shot and U-Turn, great mon for momentum. For example, Switcheroo is also kind of scary to face against, as well as Taunt. So Crobat and Persian very similar in their usages, being used to gain momentum, but also to prevent mons from setting up and whatnot. So I'm really glad I drafted those two back to back, especially with this next mon, Zapdos, another defogger, pressure, static. The point is, it was this late in the draft, and I had a ton of points to just draft like any mon that I wanted. So I drafted Zapdos because Zapdos gets Defog again. Great offensive typing. I needed an electric type, not necessarily fast, but I also wanted some more bulk, because like really, why not? And Zapdos is just so versatile in League format. I originally wanted to draft Thundy T. It would have been my 3rd time in draft format doing so. I've only drafted Zapdos once, and that was in my very first league. Like even before I like took on draft league like a bit more seriously. It wasn't even like a tier list or anything. It was just like draft from OU. And I drafted the combination of, I believe, Zapdos, Skarmory, and Heatran, which was pretty crazy. But this thing just gets so much. It's a bit tricky to use because like it's a Gen 1 mon and like certain moves can't really match up. So that's something. But it gets both U-turn and Volt Switch. Great momentum. Completes the Volt Turn core. A great stab with Thunderbolt, especially with that 125 special attack. That's nothing to be laughing at. Oops. Agility Pass, Defog. It gets Heat Wave, because that's just great coverage. Hidden Powers, it has a great speed tier of 100, and it's definitely fairly bulky as well. It can roost up any damage it takes. Signal Beam is also really not that bad. One thing that's a little bit sad about this mon is that it doesn't really get a lot of coverage when it comes to flying type. In fact, the strongest move it's going to be getting is Air Cutter or Hidden Power Flying, or Fly if I decide to run like physical, which would be very interesting. But honestly, that's just Zapdos for you. It comes in, it switches out, it defogs, it roosts. It's really hard to hit because it's only Rock and Ice weak, and it can pressure stall. It can paralyze you with static. So yeah, that's just Zapdos. And it comes to the last pick of the draft, and I'm like, I don't have any fire type. I didn't really finish off my my fire, water, grass core, so I just picked up Pyroar. I needed to pick up a tier 5. Magmortar was taken in that, which is really unfortunate. It's a really great tier 5. It was taken right before it got to me, which is really sad. So I decided to go with Zapdos. Zapdos was originally going to be my last pick of the draft. But Pyroar is a really nice mon as well. Very interesting type in Fire Normal. It means it's more weak to fighting types, which is a little bit unfortunate, but also gets some very nice stab. Its speed isn't... It's very strange, I want to say. Base 106 means it's going to be underspeeding like mons like Cobalion and Kartana and Keldeo, so that's a little bit sad, I suppose, because that means the thing just drops to them. But I mean, Choice Scarf is always an option. In terms of stab, this thing gets Fire Blast and Flamethrower. It's great mons, great moves. Hyper Voice is also great stab. I just really wanted to get like a fairly offensive fire type that can kind of clean out the game for me if needs be. And Pyro just does that. It's fairly fast. It hits very hard. Gets Moxie, which I did not know. That is very interesting. Maybe I could run like physical Pyro. Interesting. Okay, a lot of things about these mods I didn't realize until I started doing this draft recap. So I'm very much looking forward to really drawing out the most versatile forms of every single one of these mods, because they have potential, and I think this team very much has potential. And if we do win this finals, which I am playing on Friday, and hopefully I will upload the same day, if we do win this finals, I will be very glad to be back in this league and come back, and I feel like I'll be much more confident with this team in defending the title. So that's all for today. I'm going to be uploading on Friday, maybe a little bit before that in regards to a different league, but we'll see. But anyway, this has been Maistro with the Korea Komalas, bringing you our draft recap for APL Season 2, and I hope you guys have a great day. So peace out then.